Right, hello and welcome back to another mildly Gunpla review. So my name is Morty and today we are looking at the lovely G40. So I've been wanting this kit ever since I saw it being reviewed on Mecha Gaikotsu's channel, and ever since I knew that a 40-year anniversary Gundam edition Gundam kit was being released. So I was really excited to find this on the shelf at a local toy store here in Queensland, and I got really excited. I probably paid a little bit too much for it, let's be honest, but on the other hand, I now have this 40-year anniversary Gundam kit. So quickly, it's obviously got the beautiful little booklet here. When I was unboxing before, I did show this very briefly, which is like an art book almost, like concept designs and stuff like that. Super cool. I'm going to love looking through that in the future. And then you've got just a handful of runners. So being a high grade, it does have just a very minimal number of runners. However, unlike other high grades, this one's color separation looks to be incredible. So you've got the beam sabers there. You've got the white section, so you've got shield, you've got skirting, probably some head sections, possibly some arms and some other bits in there. The only slight concession to a polycap is like these softer plastic hands, which they look like they come from no, specifically for the G40 from 2019. They are your only color correcting stickers, so it's a pink one for along the top of the head, two different versions of the eyes, and one for the crotch piece, which is pretty standard for the RX-78, especially on the high grade side. So this one here is your multicolor runner. So you've got shield, chest piece, weapons, stuff like that. Then you've got two white runners, which will make up the majority of the armor on the arms and the legs and the lower torso. Actually, I lie. No, none on the lower torso, unless you count the hips and waist joint as a lower torso. So that's all arm and leg armor. So that's it. Let's jump into the review. We'll type into the build, and then we'll jump into the review afterwards, and I'll see you on the other side. Alright, so here you have it, the G40 Gundam RX-78. So this is obviously, as I mentioned at the start, this is the 40th anniversary edition of Gunpla. So it's very fitting that it is the RX-78 model, and it is a redesign by Ken Okuyama. Now I won't go too far into like its articulation and things like that, because those are absolutely outstanding. There's some really cool gimmicks with this kit. So first off, you've got a weird gimmick going on in the stomach, which I feel like I feel like I possibly built the stomach wrong. Come on, yeah, there we go. So it's this plate is actually really loose in the middle here, but once you press everything down, the whole thing kind of comes back to normal again. Some of the articulation does remind me of what it got like in between frames in the original anime and stuff like that. You get some weird looking poses and things. But the one I was trying to show was these crazy waist things. So it comes out from underneath the diaper in like this really crazy, absolutely just insane way, and even like the legs have the second point of articulation inside of them, so you just get some absolutely mind-boggling stuff going on in here. So the articulation on this model is pretty amazing. The build was pretty easy, probably took me about an hour and a half, which for a high grade is actually quite quick. It does always help when the arms are like, the upper arm section is like 4 parts, the lower arm section is like 4 parts, and then there's like a double part to connect it, and it was real easy to put together, and it was just really, really nice to build, and just the end result I quite enjoy. So obviously the colors are quite different depending on the type of light that I've got in here. Let's see if I can get it a little bit. It's a bit colder, isn't it? Let's go warmer. So as you can see, it is quite a bright blue, which is probably fairly anime accurate actually to the original RX-78. It was a fairly light blue, kind of sky bluish color. So the darker blues and things that you started seeing more recently aren't too indicative of the actual colors that the original anime portrayed it as. Now, as an overall figure, I probably, like, articulation wise, it's great, but that does mean that it ends up being quite, like, well, I don't know if other people have found it or it's just me, but I found it to be quite hard to make it to stand up on its own, and it seems to be a bit strange in that particular regard. It's kind of like leaning forward a little bit to counteract the shield weight on the back. Now, speaking of the shield, it is the pretty typical one. I do kind of miss having the yellow part in it. I do quite like the yellow of in the other shields, some of the other shields that you get, but I'm moderately biased because I prefer pretty much everything that is Gundam Seed. So that could be a bit of a factor there. Now, there is very little left over with this kit as well, so it's pretty much runnerless. I do tend to leave the beam sabers on the runners, because I very rarely actually put the beam sabers into Gundams for display. And then the other parts left over is there's a single joint. I don't even know if that's gonna be visible beyond my fingers, and I've just dropped it into the middle of nowhere. But if you look at the end of this, come on, zoom, there we go. No, not my thumb. That point there, right there. So that little white part, the ball joint at the end of the hand. So this is one of the hands here. That is actually a very small little white piece that clicks on. There is 6 of them in total, but there's only 5 hands. So you've got 2 widespread dynamic hands, you've got 1 trigger finger hand, and you've got 2 holding gripping hands, so you can dual wield the beam sabers if you want to. So there's a few different hands options, but obviously you can't have the rifle in the left hand. You can only really have it in the right. Other than that, though, the rest of the kit is really cool. It's fairly solid construction aside from my back heavy concerns, but that may just be how I've got him standing, and I'll just play with that, maybe pop him on a stand later on, get him into a cool action pose, because this thing has amazing articulation. The articulation alone, along with the easy build and the cool end product, does create a high tier. So it is a high tier. The only gripe I have is that back weight and a couple of the flimsiness. So because it's got such amazing articulation, like this middle red plate, I don't know if I've put it on wrong, or if it's just inherently loose when you extend that torso into a back or forward lean position, but it does rattle a little bit when you've got him into strange bending positions. Otherwise, everything went super smooth, and I really enjoyed this kit, so definitely worth the money investment, and I look forward to seeing what else they release for later anniversary products, but also if Ken Okuyama does further redesigns of some of the other flagship kits, like I'd like to see a Strike or a Sazabi or even a Zaku would be really cool. there's a large number, as long as he doesn't do a Zeta. I really need to stop crapping on Zetas. Anyway, high tier kit, really enjoyed it. If you like this review, Timelapse, found it useful, please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Help the channel grow and convince me to do this beyond this year or something like that, instead of just as a hobby. But anyway, this is Morty from Mildly Awful signing off, and I will see you in the next video.